where history is held in the palm of your hand, and every coin tells a powerful story. Today, we journey deep into the heart of American numismatics as we explore the rich and remarkable history of the 1945 wheat Lincoln penny, a small copper coin that carries with it the weight of an era, a nation in transition, and the legacy of one of the most iconic figures in American history, Abraham Lincoln. The year was 1945, and the world was at a turning point. The Second World War was drawing to a close. Europe was in ruins, the Pacific was ablaze, and at home in the United States, Americans were rationing goods, conserving metals, working in war industries, and supporting a massive military effort abroad. In the midst of all this, the U.S. Mint was hard at work producing the coins that would continue to drive the economy during wartime and beyond. And among those coins was the humble yet historically significant 1945 Lincoln wheat cent, struck primarily at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. The 1945 Lincoln cent remained true to the design introduced in 1909 by Victor David Brenner, profile of President Lincoln on the obverse, and two wheat stalks curving around the words 1 cent on the reverse. The coin itself measured 19 millimeters in diameter, composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It weighed 3.11 grams and served not only as a functional piece of currency, but also as a tribute to Lincoln's enduring legacy. What makes the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny especially compelling is its context. At the time, the United States was still producing coins using traditional copper alloy, but just 2 years prior, in 1943, the mint had experimented with zinc-coated steel to conserve copper for the war. This resulted in a short-lived and controversial steel penny that was poorly received by the public due to its tendency to rust and its similarity to dimes in appearance. By 1944, the mint returned to copper using recycled shell casings from the battlefields, which made the 1944 and 1945 issues particularly symbolic. They were coins born from war, both in spirit and in substance. Many collectors today refer to these cents as shell case cents, and this gives the 1945 penny not only monetary value, but emotional and historical significance. Millions of these coins were produced, making them common in general terms, but condition, rarity, errors, and provenance can dramatically increase their value. For example, 1945 Lincoln cents in pristine mint state, especially with full original luster and strong strikes, can fetch significantly higher prices at auction. Ms. 65 and above examples are always in demand and often find homes in top-tier collections. Collectors should also be aware of striking varieties and errors that emerge during this production year, including off-center strikes, double die obverses, and ray-punched mint marks. These errors are not just numismatic curiosities. They are treasured finds that offer a deeper glimpse into the minting process and the human hands behind them, where every coin tells a story, and every penny takes you back in time. Do you remember the simple days when pennies actually bought something real? Maybe you remember reaching into your pocket as a kid and pulling out a copper coin with the image of Abraham Lincoln staring proudly into the distance. That wasn't just change, it was history in your hands. And one of those pennies might just have been the 1979 Lincoln penny. In 1979, America was going through change. Inflation was rising, gas prices were biting, and everyday families were adjusting to a new pace of life. But one thing remained the same: the humble Lincoln cent, a coin that held its ground for generations. Minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, this penny featured the same iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln that had been introduced in 1909 to honor his 100th birthday. But beyond the design, the 1979 penny carried the spirit of an era. It witnessed the stories of working Americans, young dreamers, veterans, homemakers, and students. It passed through grocery stores, jukeboxes, church collection plates, school vending machines, and even the palms of proud parents rewarding kids for their first chores. Today, we're not just looking at a coin, we're looking at a legacy. From its composition of 95% copper to its possible mint errors and collectible conditions, the 1979 Lincoln penny has become more than just pocket change. It's become a memory, a mirror of time, and for some collectors, a hidden treasure. 1979 Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans carried in their pockets, spent at corner stores, saved in jars, and perhaps even passed down from one generation to the next. This humble copper coin may seem ordinary at first glance, but when you peel back its surface, it reveals a world of history, design, politics, minting evolution, and economic significance that spans generations. The 1979 Lincoln cent stands as a continuation of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design, first introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Frank Gasparo, the reverse of the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, while the obverse portrait of Lincoln, created by Victor David Brenner, has graced the penny since 1909, the longest-running design in United States coinage history, and by 1979 it had already been in use for 70 years. Still going strong, still symbolic, still representing the values and legacy of one of America's most iconic leaders. To understand the 1979 Lincoln penny fully, we need to examine the context of the times. The late 1970s were marked by economic uncertainty, rising inflation, and a changing global landscape. The United States Mint was adjusting to rising metal prices, shifting public demand, and growing technological advancements. The 1979 Lincoln cent was struck primarily in Philadelphia with no mint mark, and in Denver marked with a small d. Below the date, millions upon millions were produced, but within those mass strikes lie hidden varieties, small errors, and rarities that collectors now cherish. Some coins from this year feature minor double dies, misaligned dies, or weak strikes, which over time have grown significantly in collector interest. More than just a piece of currency, the 1979 penny holds a place in history, representing the last full year before the dramatic shifts of the 1980s in U.S. coinage and economy. For the seasoned numismatist and the casual enthusiast alike, the 1979 Lincoln cent becomes more than a coin. It becomes a marker of time, a cultural artifact, and a tangible link to a nation's past. In this video, we will break down the full history of the 1979 Lincoln penny, from its metal composition changes to the transition from high copper to zinc alloy in the early 1980s, from the minting process at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints to the production of proof coins at San Francisco. We will explore the evolution of the design, its symbolism, and how collectors today identify high-grade examples that can sell for premiums at auction. We will also look at the legacy of Abraham Lincoln on coinage, and how this cent preserved his memory in everyday transactions across the country. By the time we reach the end of this deep dive, you will not only understand the value of the 1979 Lincoln penny, but also appreciate the role it played in American life, from school vending machines to veterans who saved them during military service. This coin was present in person. Now, decades later, it sits quietly. Welcome back to LC Coins World, where every coin tells a story. And today, we take a deep dive into one of the most iconic and familiar coins in American pockets and drawers across generations, the 1980 Lincoln penny. More than just a 1-cent piece, this coin holds a place in the heart of millions of Americans, and its journey through American history is richer than many collectors realize. The 1980 Lincoln penny was minted during a time of great change in the United States, a time when inflation was high, industries were shifting, and American families were navigating a new economic reality. As we turn back the clock to 1980, we find a country coming out of the turbulent 70s, struggling with rising oil prices, unemployment, and the aftershocks of the Vietnam War. Yet even during these challenging times, the United States Mint continued its commitment to producing coins that not only serve economic purposes but also preserve national heritage. The 1980 Lincoln cent continued the long legacy started in 1909, when President Theodore Roosevelt sought to beautify American coinage and chose Abraham Lincoln to be the first real person featured on a regular circulating coin in US history. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the Lincoln penny remained largely unchanged for decades, with the right-facing portrait of President Lincoln a symbol of unity, resilience, and American ideals. The reverse of the 1980 penny still featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and to honor his role in preserving the Union. The design, by Frank Gasparro, remained a cornerstone of the series until 2008, making this coin a part of a long and honored chapter in US mint history. The 1980 Lincoln penny was struck in both Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia version has no mint mark, while the Denver minted coins carry a small D beneath the date. Both coins were struck primarily in a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, with the total weight of 3.11 grams, making it one of the last years before the major composition shift that would take place in 1982, when the US Mint transitioned to a predominantly zinc core with copper plating due to the rising cost of copper. This makes the 1980 penny particularly interesting to collectors and historians because it represents the end of an era in American coin metallurgy. The mintage numbers for the 1980 Lincoln penny were massive, with billions produced at both mints. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 7.4 billion coins, and the Denver Mint produced more than 5.1 billion, making it one of the highest mintage years in the Lincoln cent series. Despite these large numbers, collectors continue to seek out pristine examples in high mint state conditions, especially those graded Ms. 66 or higher by PCGs or NGC coins with full red luster, sharp strike, and minimal contact marks can fetch strong premiums in the collector market. Errors and varieties also contribute to the value and intrigue of the 1980 Lincoln penny. Among the most desirable are off-center strikes, double die obverses, or reverses, and coins struck on foreign planchets or transitional metal blanks. Collectors should always be on the lookout for strong doubling on the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust, which could indicate a valuable error piece. Likewise, coins with major off-center strikes or missing elements are considered rare and collectible, especially if they also remain in uncirculated condition. Another area of interest is the role that the 1980 Lincoln penny played in the everyday lives of Americans at the time, from lunch counters to payphones, vending machines to cash registers. The penny was still an essential part of daily transactions. It was a time when a dollar stretched further and pocket change mattered. The Lincoln penny often carried emotional weight as well. It was the coin parents gave their kids to start their savings jars, the coin that rolled across countless counters, and the coin that sometimes found itself tossed into fountains with wishes whispered quietly behind it. For the numismatic community, the 1980 Lincoln penny remains a staple of early modern coin collect, easy to find but hard to master, with the perfect combination of historical importance, design continuity, and subtle variations that can excite even veteran collectors. As we explore the striking process, the role of the mint engravers, the circulation history, and market trends surrounding the 1980 penny, we discover that this humble coin tells a bigger story about America, its economy, its identity, and its people. So whether you are a seasoned coin collector or someone who just found an old penny in your drawer and got curious, this video is for you. Stay with us as we explore die characteristics, minting anomalies, collector insights, and expert appraisals of the 1980 Lincoln penny. We will hear from specialists, look at grading examples, and even explore auction results to understand how 1 cent can sometimes be worth far more than its face value in historical and collector terms. The 1980 Lincoln penny is more than money, is memory. It is meaning, it is America in copper formal. Today, we explore the journey of the 1960 Lincoln penny, coin that may look ordinary to the untrained eye, but holds a remarkable place in the legacy of American coinage. Minted at the Denver Mint, the 1960 penny represents a turning point in numismatic production, design changes, and collector interest that continues to spark discussion to this day. The 1960 Lincoln penny was produced during a time of economic optimism in America, with the post-war boom still influencing the economy and a growing middle class driving change across the country. This coin was struck in copper and features the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials VD appear subtly at the base of the bust. This portrait was first introduced in 1909 and has remained a staple of American coinage for over a century. By 1960, the Lincoln cent had already become a familiar and trusted presence in the daily lives of millions of Americans. The reverse of the 1960 penny continued to feature the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced just 1 year earlier in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This transition from the original wheat ears design to the memorial was part of a broader trend in US coinage that embraced national landmarks and symbols of unity. The memorial reverse was designed by Frank Gasparo, who later became chief engraver of the US Mint, and this design helped to reinforce the cultural and civic respect for Lincoln's legacy. The Denver Mint struck over 1.5 billion Lincoln pennies in 1960, making it one of the most abundant coin issues in US history. But the story of the 1960 penny becomes more interesting when we look at the small date and large date varieties, which are of great interest to collectors. The small date version features more compact numerals in the date, particularly noticeable in the number 0, while the large date version is more stretched and prominent. This subtle difference has led to years of research, examination, and classification by coin experts, and has become a cornerstone of Lincoln cent variety collecting. The 1960 small date over large date variety is especially important among Lincoln cent enthusiasts. This overdate error occurred when the Mint repunched dies that originally had a large date with a smaller date. This resulted in a coin that shows signs of both styles overlapped, a numismatic anomaly that instantly increases a coin's desirability and market value. The overdate coins were discovered in roll searches and change in the 1960s and have since become highly collectible, with uncirculated examples fetching impressive prices at auction depending on their condition, luster, and strike. The 1960 Lincoln penny also reflects changes in minting technology and die maintenance practices of the era. The 1960s saw the US Mint transitioning to improved methods for die creation and coin striking, including the use of master hubs and improved die steel. Yet despite these technological advancements, errors like doubled dies, repunched mint marks, and overdates were still prevalent, due in part to the human element in coin production, which was not fully automated at the time. The copper alloy used in the 1960 Lincoln cent was a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This composition gave the coin a rich reddish tone when freshly struck, though exposure to air over time has resulted in various natural toning patterns, which can also impact a coin's collector value. Full red examples of uncirculated 1960 pennies are particularly prized, while red, brown, and brown-toned coins are more common. From a historical standpoint, the 1960s marked the final decade before major changes in US coinage materials. By 1982, the composition of the penny would shift from primarily copper to a zinc core with a thin copper plating due to rising metal prices and inflation. Thus, the 1960 penny stands as part of the final generation of high copper cents, a fact that adds both historical and material interest to the coin for investors and collectors. The Denver Mint itself has a rich history and is known for high-quality production, with the focus on efficiency and volume. In 1960, the facility was tasked with helping to meet the rising demand for coinage. Spurred by population growth and increased economic activity, the D. Mint mark on the 1960 Lincoln penny is a small yet meaningful indication of its origin, and collectors often search for mint state examples with sharp D mint marks and minimal contact marks. The circulation life of the 1960 D. Lincoln penny was long, and many of these coins remained in use for decades, although they became less common in everyday pocket change by the early 2000s. Many examples were hoarded or retired from circulation by collectors, especially once the small date and overdate varieties gained popularity in numismatic publications and coin shows. In terms of value, the majority of circulated 1960 D. pennies remain common and accessible to new collectors, but certain varieties, such as the 1960 D small over large date or well-preserved red gem, Ms. 67 graded examples can command a significant premium. These coins are regularly featured in coin auctions across the country and appear in registry sets and variety collections, especially those focused on Lincoln cents from 1909 to the modern day.